Hey there, and welcome to Q&A Wednesday. I'm sorry I'm starting a couple minutes late. I decided at the last minute to make some changes as to what I was going to talk about, so I had to take a couple minutes to make sure that I had some notes written down. But have a really important topic today. You know, one of the things that most of us particularly like to use when we're trying to be a little bit healthier and we're trying to avoid sugar, and you know, even just refined sugar and all some of those options. A lot of times we start using sugar substitutes, and so a lot of questions come up as to whether or not they're safe to use. Are they healthy to use? And I know that there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of conflicting information out there, but we're going to give you a little bit about the basics today. Originally, I had kind of done some more deeper research about each one of them, and I decided to just talk about the overall, whether or not they're beneficial, which ones are your best alternatives, and you know, those kind of ideas, because most of us don't need to know the scientific makeup and the chemical makeup of each of those. We just want to know which is the best option. So that's what we're going to talk about today. You know, there's, like I said, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of confusion, and I think that a lot of that stems from coming from the different companies, like some of the big soda companies that want to make it confusing. They want to put their own spin on it and make things sound a little bit better than they are. And so, you know, they come up with these things, whether or not they're, you know, it's a better option to use this because it's not as bad for you. But, you know, if you really kind of look at the alternatives, they're not all that great, and just like anything else, they should not be used as loopholes. There is no loophole that's going to allow you to eat the things that you normally eat of the American diet and get away with it without having some negative reactions to that or some negative consequences. So let's talk a little bit about the different options. Of course, we all know that refined sugar is not the greatest option. It's an addicting substance. It lights up the same part of the brain as cocaine does. So, you know, it releases dopamine, and we like how that feels, and we like how it tastes, because of course they've designed these flavors to taste amazing on our taste buds, so we'll keep buying whatever that product is. Hi, Paula. So again, there's, and once in a while it's okay. The problem is that the American diet contains so much of it that it becomes a problem. So most of us have been looking for different alternatives and some things that we can do. Like I said, you know, here and there it's okay. It's when we use those on a regular basis as kind of a substitute, and also, you know, in order to eat more of that. You know, the more that you eat clean and things like fruits and vegetables, you know, your best option for sugar is in things like fruit, where it is so nutrient dense that the benefits outweigh whatever type of sugar is in it, because it is a natural sugar. But I know that most people look to sugar substitutes, and one of those options, well, I'm going to give you a couple of options, and here's my take on that as well. I am not a huge fan of sugar substitute. I do use a little bit because, of course, most of us in some degree have to live, and I try to avoid as much sugar as possible. So your options come down to things, some of them in the past, you know, were new and exciting, and of course we've come to find out that they are really negative in a lot of ways. There's a lot of negative consequences. So, you know, your options are saccharin, which of course has come down to show in multiple studies and research that it can cause cancer in lab animals. Aspartame, same thing. You know, I remember when Tab first came out, which was one of the very first diet sodas, and of course between my mother and I, we were always on a diet, so that was a big deal when that came out, because that gave us an option that wasn't full of sugar. Tab no longer exists. Remember the pink cans? That shows my date, how old I am. I know. But you know, aspartame was one of the sweeteners, and it's still available. Although a lot of scientists and a lot of people that do a lot of research in this direction really believe that the FDA should regulate that out and cut that out as being supported. I find one of the most interesting terms that I found doing my research is GRAS, generally recognized as safe. Now, what the heck does that mean? Generally recognized as safe. Does that mean, oh, we haven't done enough research to really determine the long-term consequences of this product? And a lot of these are. They've been okayed by the FDA. Some of these are even outlawed in other countries. High fructose corn syrup, which I'll get to in just a minute, there's multiple countries that don't allow that in their products whatsoever. And if you look at the American staple and a lot of the products that come home from the shelves of our grocery stores, it's in so many products, and it is a huge problem for multiple reasons. The other one that is really pretty widely used right now is sucralose, also known as Splenda. And I will admit I use a little bit of that as well. But the more research that I do on that, first of all, it is a sugar derivative. It is broken down from sugar. It is a byproduct kind of sugar. So it tastes like sugar. It's like 600 times sweeter than sugar itself. That's why so much less is required in order to get the sweetness. The problem is a couple of things. Number one, it has been shown to actually spike insulin just like sugar. So the problem is that when something sweet hits our tongue, our body recognizes that as being a sweetener and expects carbs, and so it spikes insulin anyway. Whether you eat that or not, it spikes insulin. The downside is if you are, say, continuously drinking diet sodas that contain sucralose in it or Splenda, your body consistently is spiking insulin, but then doesn't have anything to do with it. And that's how insulin resistance starts. So it isn't really a great option to be using on a regular basis. I tend to only use it if I am going to be partaking of carbs. And I try to really reduce my consumption of that just because I really feel that it's not, I don't believe that there's been enough research to show whether or not there are long-term consequences. There is some beginning data coming in about whether or not it can be cancer causing. So, but here's the deal, guys. Anytime something is a chemical, a man-made product, there's going to be, it's not made for our bodies. Our bodies don't know what to do with additives, preservatives. Lynette saying thank you. Hey girl, it was your idea, so I appreciate you. Like I said, I get my best ideas from you. Our bodies were not designed to deal with the additives, preservatives, and all of those other artificial things that come in contact with our body. So what does our body do? Stores it as toxins. So again, you got to kind of decide whether or not that you're willing to deal with that, and be aware that even if you store that as toxins, because again, body fat is our body's way of protecting us. It's our survival mechanism. It deals with something that's toxic to us and it goes, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with this. So it whisks it away out of our system so it doesn't cause any more damage, but it stores it in body fat. Now, if you work to release that body fat, I'm getting some topics or some texting in some other languages, so hello. When your body releases that body fat or empties those cells, your body has to then deal with those toxins all over again. So not the best idea to be, introducing toxic and chemicals and different things to our bodies, because again, we're going to have to deal with it more than once, especially if we choose to lose weight or try to release body fat. So again, I know a lot of people use Splenda, but any choice that you make to use any of the sugar substitutes, just make sure that you're very aware of what you're doing and that it can have consequences. And especially if there isn't enough research been done on some of the different products, gosh, that can come back to be a huge problem in the future. So, definitely keep that in mind. I found some really great information from a website, and I don't know if I'm going to say this right. It's mercola.com, MERCOLA. Great. There's a really great article on it. That's where I got a lot of my information for today because, again, sometimes we have those ideas, but I really want to see the research behind it. I want to see the science behind it. I don't want to make blanket statements that I'm pulling from thin air. I want to know that there's definitely some research behind it. So, so for artificial sweeteners, the other downside is there is no scientific evidence that it actually causes weight loss. I know many people who drink tons of diet soda and are really struggling with obesity. I actually think on multiple levels it contributes to it. Whether or not it's because our body just doesn't know what to do with it, because it's confusing our hormones, again, high fructose corn syrup does that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But in some of the research, it does show that it appears to cause the same health effects similar to high sugar consumption. So, keep it at a minimum if that's something that you choose to use. Even products like aspartame have been shown to worsen insulin sensitivity. So yes, on one hand, you're not taking in the calories, which is kind of the point, right? We're trying to not get all the sugar, and we're not trying to spike our insulin and store anything as fat. But on the other hand, it can actually do exactly what we're trying to avoid. The other one that I hear a lot about is all natural sweeteners. Again, now we're kind of really a huge gray area. While there's some things that are better options, like I said, natural sugars from fruit, the benefits outweigh the negatives there. You're getting a lot of, especially if it's high in fiber, you're getting a lot of vitamins and minerals. The problem comes down to when we're trying to use things like honey or maple syrup or agave as our options, because really they're doing the same thing as sugar, guys. They're spiking your insulin, and what insulin does to your body is it tells your body to store something. Now, another day and time, we'll talk about how there are some benefits to insulin, especially around your times of workout. But right now, we're really just discussing, the sweeteners and what the issues are. So, the downside to both of those, like I said, agave, even first of all, you don't always know that they are pure, that they're organic, that they're natural. A lot of times they are highly refined, and it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell whether or not they've been processed. And if they are, anything that's high in fructose in general, like I said, especially high fructose corn syrup, can mess with our hormone levels. Now, what that comes down to is that, our ghrelin and our leptin levels, which is our hormones that tell us whether or not we're hungry or we're satiated, when they don't release, and there is science behind this, I'm not going to go into it today, but when they aren't released, our body doesn't realize that it's full, and so you get those signals to keep eating, and that's a problem that causes. Refined fructose can also activate a key enzyme that causes your body to just store as fat. It also leads to insulin resistance. So that's, again, not always our best options. Any type of sweetener that you're going to use should be used, like I said, in moderation. Because you should be eating enough protein and some of these other nutrients, the macronutrients that your body needs, because they each do different things. And I really get frustrated with people when, again, they're trying to find loopholes, or yes, there are some healthier alternatives, and those are great, especially if you're trying to make some changes little by little, because that's the easiest way to do it. Just don't think that one is so much better than the other that you can use it unlimited. I find a lot of times when you think something is healthier, you tend to eat more of it, and thereby reducing the benefits anyway, right? Case in point, my favorite option is Oreo Thins. Yeah, they're thinner, whoopee. They're still full of sugar. They're still, not a healthy alternative. Not that you shouldn't eat them, you just shouldn't eat a lot of them. But because they're thin and they're smaller, people assume they're a little bit healthier, and so they eat so many more than if they were just eating the regular ones. So again, keep that in mind, that you still have to limit all of those extras, right? The other option is sugar alcohols. Now, those are in a lot of products today. If you have not learned to read nutrition labels, you need to. Sugar alcohols on the backside under the ingredient list, if they have at least, I believe, 1 gram of sugar alcohol, they have to actually list it in the nutrition section as a sugar alcohol. But look down below in the ingredient section, anything that ends in OL, right? Mostly tall, T-O-L. Coconut sugar is still sugar. I mean, it's still, anything sweet touches your tongue, it spikes your insulin. I'm going to have to do more research on that, but I believe that is still considered an all-natural sweetener. I would still limit it. It's probably still going to be a better option than something that's refined and man-made, but it's still going to spike insulin. Back to sugar alcohols, the reason why, now technically it's not really a sugar, it's an alcohol, but that's, again, a topic for another day. But the reason why they use them is because they cannot be completely absorbed by the body. They pass through your system and into your intestines and out. The downside to those, as to anyone who's actually consumed way too much of them, you know that it can cause digestive distress. I've had experience with that, such as diarrhea. Come on, guys. You've all eaten that bag of sugar-free candy and gone, what the heck did I just do? Okay, Paul, I'll have to come back and look at that, just because if I get off topic, I will not remember what I'm talking about. So hold on, okay? So sugar alcohols, like I said, they can cause some issues if you eat too much of it. And some of them actually still can spike insulin, like maltitol. I don't even know how you say it, but some of the most widely used is erythritol and xylitol, which we find a lot in gum. Some of them work well in baking, some of them don't, which is true for all sugar substitutes. Xylitol doesn't tend to have the same insulin spike that some of the other ones do. Like I said, that and the erythritol are widely used. But again, don't do too much of it or your body will not be happy with you. But again, so there's different products. I tried, I'm not going to name the bar just because it's been a really long time since there is a bar, and I don't even know if it's a protein bar. I think it's just supposed to be an alternative, but it has like 21 sugar alcohols in it. I can't even eat it. It makes me so sick. So it's not always a great alternative. It used in small amounts. I know xylitol is used a lot in gum because it actually will not harm teeth. Dentists prefer that. But I have had an excess of xylitol before and really regretted it after the fact. So again, you know, everything that seems like a great alternative may have a downside, and pay attention to that, because yeah, it's something you're going to have to live with. There's also sweeteners that we consider dietary supplements. And the biggest and my most favorite is stevia. Now, the downside to stevia comes from a plant. It was originally used in Japan for a long time before it came to the US. It comes from a plant, but it depends on if they use the oil or, I believe, the leaves. And one is a little more bitter than the other. That's why a lot of people don't like it. They don't like the flavor. It can be used in baking if it comes in a granulated form, which I've used before, like Pure, P-Y-U-R-E. You know, so again, some sweeteners can and some can't, depending on their structure. But I believe that stevia is probably one of the better ones. It doesn't tend to show spikes with insulin. It is 200 to 400 times sweeter than sugar. It's used in a lot of products, including desserts and gums and candy and things like that. And like I said, it can be used in baking. From the information that I can see, I think that there still needs to be some long-term testing on it, just to make sure. But again, the fact that it's not A, a sugar derivative, and B, it comes from a plant and has been used in other countries for a period of time, I do believe that it is one of the more natural options that can work. You just might have to refine your taste buds to it. Another option for that I'm not going to go into too much today is glucose, but the benefits of using pure glucose, and some of you who do a little bit of nutrient timing for your workouts, maybe do an intro workout, which is pure glucose. The reason that we do that is because it's absorbed easily by all your cells, and it helps the uptake of nutrients into your muscle when you use it during your workout. So again, a topic for another time, but that is used also as a dietary supplement and is a better option than, say, fructose. So hopefully that kind of helps. Here's my take on it. You know, anytime, like I said, that you're using something that is man-made, or that you're trying to find a shortcut from, you know, having a healthy nutritional lifestyle, there's going to be consequences to some degree. And really, even if it's a great option, it still should be limited. You should still use moderation no matter what type of sweetener that you choose, because it is not a loophole. You know, and be very aware, pay attention to it. Things like, even like Splenda makes a brown sugar product, and if you haven't paid any attention to it and read the back, that brown sugar product contains actual brown sugar, not just a brown color of Splenda. So it's not always what you think it is. You really have to pay attention. Hey, Sean. So really watch your nutrition labels, learn what those things mean. Your best bet is to use natural ingredients. You know, a couple weeks ago I made a great easy cookie, and the form of sweetener in the cookie was smashed banana. I mean, come on, that is a natural sweetener right from what it is. One of the better options. And don't eat more just because it's a sugar substitute. Like I said, a lot of times that product still has calories. So if you're not paying attention to that and just thinking, well, it doesn't have sugar, so I'm going to. Now, sugar in the raw, okay, I've read a little bit about that. That one I'm going to come back to another time, just because I can't give you enough information. And, you know, if I don't know something, I'm going to tell you I don't know. But again, remember that anytime it's sweet, unless it's been proven, kind of like the sugar alcohols and maybe the stevia, to not spike your insulin, anytime you spike insulin, that is a storage. That's your body's communication saying, store this, store something. So again, you have to pay attention to how your body responds to it. It's just because it's natural does not make it a better option. And last but not least, again, a lot of them are chemicals. We talked about that. Not always a great option because it's a toxin. Your body doesn't know what to do with it. If it's a man-made product, it's just like processed food. Your body's going to not necessarily do as well with it. Your body's going to absorb more of it. It has to do something with those products that your body doesn't know what to do with and considers toxins. So hopefully that helps. If it needs me to recap, come back to the fact that your best options are to use them minimally, you know, use them in moderation. Sugar alcohols, to an extent, are a decent option as long as you don't ingest more than your body can handle, because it does have some major downsides to it when it comes to your digestive system. And stevia, you know, especially in the right formulations, it can be a great option. You just might have to get used to putting a little bit of that and tasting a little bit of bitter in the coffee. Isn't coffee bitter anyway? So there you go. gives you a few good options. And if you're not quite sure, you can absolutely, I will put the link to that article down below. So if you want to read it, if that's something that you like to do, it gives you way more information than I just did, and kind of give you a background as to where I got a lot of my information today. So do I use sugar substitutes? Minimally, yes I do, because again, I don't do a whole lot of sugar, especially right now. And for those of you that, my coach let the cat out of the bag, guys. I'm competing in 2.5 weeks in Boise, Idaho. I'm just gonna say that minimally here, because I was trying to make it, I'd rather surprise people. Just like show up and be like, bam, look at me, I got it, let's go. So anyway, that's why I'm looking a little scary at this point. I'm pretty lean at the moment. But anyway, stay tuned on Saturday morning. I have a good one for you. Guys, I'm always looking for at least something that's a slightly healthier option, because those of you like me that have a sweet tooth, we got to go somewhere. So I've got a great option, super, super simple. I don't do complicated, you know that. So I'll have a great one then. And then next week, of course, back to Q&A Wednesday. So have an incredible day, guys, and we'll see you later. Have a good night.